Hi everyone, welcome. Dawn from Dawn's Creative Life here with number 2 video from the trilogy. The trilogy being making projects from the leftover corn leaves from my corn summer garden this year. In video 1, which I'll link below, we made some handmade paper, boiled down the leaves. A byproduct of that boiling down and making that paper was a beautiful gold syrupy coloured water, which we, in this video, number 2, are going to be using to make some dyed paper. And then that will also leave a byproduct of a more rich solution at the end after it's done a bit of evaporating during the boiling process for the paper. And we will use that to potentially make some pigments and inks and whatever other fun things we can think of when the time comes. So that will be number 3. So hopefully that won't be too far away. So in terms of today's project, we're only using the corn water and the alum, and alum being a mordant. They're the only 2 things that we're going to be using for the paper. We are going to be putting some botanicals in between the paper to try and get some prints. The success of that, I have never not used anything else apart from alum before. Usually I put in some rusty things and onion skins and iron and bits and pieces to try and get some stronger prints. But I want to isolate the corn water, so we're only using alum to see how we go. So worst case scenario, we just get some beautifully eco-dyed paper. Best case scenario, we get some prints from the botanicals as well because of the alum. But we won't know until we do it. But either way, we'll end up with a cohesive set of papers. I'm going to be using some fabric, some tissue paper, some just cartridge printer paper, and some watercolor paper. So but at the end of the day, we'll still end up with a nice set of cohesive papers, which I will then probably, depending on how it all turns out, but my plan is to make a little book with that at the end. I'll use the papers that we made in video 1 because they're a bit thicker. We'll use that for the covers of the book, and then the papers that we do in today's episode will be the pages. So that's the plan. So hopefully that all does go to plan. So yeah, have fun watching. Please do like, subscribe, comment. That would be much appreciated. And I'll see you in the next segment. Okay, so here we are for part 2 of the trilogy, where we are going to do some eco dyeing using the corn water, which was a byproduct of part 1, which if you have not seen that as yet, I'll link it below. It's where we made some paper using corn leaves, which turned out really gorgeous and textured. So the byproduct of that was some really nice, beautiful golden coloured water, which we're going to use today to experiment with some eco dyeing on fabric and paper and tissue paper. So I've got some plain fabrics in 3 different sorts. This is a natural calico, a white cotton jersey. I've just got some cartridge paper that's blank. I've got some tissue paper which has been gel printed on, a couple of those, which will be interesting to do some eco dyeing over the top. This is a gel print also on some graph paper, some more graph paper there, and then some plain tissue paper. We're going to do 2 experiments. One, we're going to sandwich between tiles and submerge into the corn water, and the other, which will be this pile, we're going to roll up into bundles and put on a grate on top and steam up through the water. So this is the first lot. And then for our ones that we're going to sandwich between the tiles, I've got the same fabrics, cartridge paper, some watercolor paper with just some gradient watercolor on them. So I just thought they would be interesting to experiment with. And then of course just the same tissue paper with gel print, some fabric with a gel print. That could be interesting. Some more graph paper, some stiffer sort of yellow coloured paper. I thought that's got a gel print on it. That could be interesting. Cartridge paper. This is brown packaging paper with a gel print. And then some more tissue paper. So that is what is going to sandwich in between. So the ones that are sandwiched in between are going to be submerged in the water. The ones that we're going to make into bundles are not. So what I'm going to do is paint them first with some alum that we are going to dissolve into the corn water. Now, I have weighed out my 2 piles, and they weigh about 100 grams. So I'm going to put in 15 grams of alum into my water, which is just off camera, but we will soon see the water when we put everything in. And we're going to stir that up so we can kind of see it there. It's kind of bubbling up a bit. So we'll just get that dissolved in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the fabric and papers that we're not submerging, we're bundling. I'm going to paint that onto those with this solution because it's got the alum in it, which is behaving as a mordant, which will potentially, hopefully, create stronger prints. Okay, so back over to the paper and fabrics, and I'm going to, doesn't have to be a perfect paint job that we're doing here. I'm just going to just swizzle it around and just paint it on, just to introduce some of that mordant, the alum, onto our fabrics and papers. Okay, so we've done that step. So now I'm going to set those aside. They can just dry a little bit. And I'm going to sandwich our pieces together for the tiles while they kind of soak up a bit of the concoction that we've placed on them. So we'll get our second batch back now, which is going to go in between the tiles. And I've just got some kitchen tiles here, leftovers from retiling the kitchen many years ago. And I'm not going to paint these because they're going to be submerged anyway. So I've got a range of different foliage here, and we'll just walk through those as we do the sandwiching. Okay, so no, there's no special place to start. This is just a plain calico and sword ferns out of my fernery. Hucheras. I've got several different varieties of these in the garden, and they can give some beautiful colours. We've only got foliage today, simply because we're 2/3 of the way through autumn. These are lemon leaves off the lemon tree. 2/3 of the way through autumn, and the summer blooms are gone. The winter blooms aren't out yet, such as red flowering gums and wattle. There's a few fuchsias around, but not many. So we've mostly got foliage from the garden, which is fine. This is some wattle foliage. The flowers aren't out yet. I haven't even got any buds as yet, but the foliage is nice. Actually, I fib. There's a bud right there. So they'll be flowering soon. Give that a squish down. Now we've got some eucalyptus, which I'm going to cut down a little bit. A bit too long, so I just have to go and get some secateurs. So I'll pop those on there. Another piece of watercolour paper. What else have we got? Oh, some bay leaves. I've got a monster of a bay leaf tree. Actually, might just chop that whole bit off. Just pop the whole thing in. This is a grevillea. I don't know, I can't remember what, no, sorry, a bottle brush. I can't remember the variety of it, but it makes beautiful gel prints. I love the shape for gel printing. Okay, so we'll get some more fern happening, perhaps for this little guy. Now, of course, you can introduce other materials to your water. I'm only using the corn water because I want to see what sort of effect that has. But you can, for your eco dyeing, also add other bits and pieces like rusty bits and pieces. onion skins, other organic materials, and that creates what's called a dirty pot. And you can actually reserve that water for future dyeing, which I do. I store them in old vinegar bottles and just do lots of recycling in that regard. So you can do that, but I am not doing it this time, as I said, because I just want to experiment with the corn water and see if that has an effect. So we're just keeping it simple. And you could also do the same thing with introducing different things in between your layers. So that's also a possibility, like rusty washers and bits of rusty chain, just various bits and pieces. But for purposes of today, we're just keeping the experiment nice and simple. Get rid of that bit of stick. Okay, and this is the final layer, and we might put some lemon leaves on there. And we shall put a tile on top, and we want to now bind that as strongly as possible. And that's quite thick, has got a lot of movement, so I'm actually going to divide that in half so that we can potentially get some better contact between our layers. So I might divide it about, see how that looks. Just drop some foliage, that's okay. Yeah, I might just do another couple of layers just so that we get really good contact. Okay, I think that feels a bit better. So we'll pop that on there. And this one can go back on here. And to tie them up, I'm just using some jute. I'm going to make it nice and long so that I can bind it really well. Okay, so that's one bundle done. Did a bit of a camera bump then with my elbow as I was tying the bundle up. So I won't put you through me tying up the second bundle because you get the drift. So I'll just do that off camera. Okay, so I've done my two bundles and I'm going to put those to one side while I do some wrapping of the other fabrics and papers that we painted with the solution before, the alum and corn solution. And we're going to bundle those with string and sit them on top of a grate so that they will steam through. So we'll do that now. And we want to try to tie them nice and tightly as well. So, and we will potentially get some nice dyed pieces of string out of this experiment too, which can also be nice to use in other mixed media projects, journal tags, etc. So we'll use the hooch area on those, and I'm going to keep it simple again, and we're just going to roll it nice and tight, and we want to bundle it nice and tightly as well so that we get good contact with the fabric and the foliage. I have in the meantime put my frying pan on to start warming up the water so that by the time we're finished bundling these, the water will hopefully potentially be ready. So we'll do a few of those. to layer together these tissue papers because they're much more fragile than the other papers, and layering them together will give them a bit more strength to then bundle up. That is the plan anyway. Best laid plans. Let's see how we go. So I'll just fold this into quarters and then we will bundle it as we have with the others. Tuck those in a bit. I have run out of string, so we'll just cut a bit more off. And we'll bundle that one up. And in hindsight, I should have done the same thing with the copy paper, but that's okay. All part of the experiment. And I don't mind if the papers tear a little bit or get a bit raggedy, because they're going to be torn up and used in other projects anyway, potentially. So that is all good. All right, so that is it. Actually, I wanted to do something with these corn that I forgot. So I am going to get one more. Well, we'll bundle two of these copy papers together to see if that does strengthen them and they don't tear as easily. My water's warming up, but I'll just give it a stir. I should still be able to give this a quick paint. Okay, and let's see how we go with the corn leaves. Just keeping the theme running. See if they do anything or not. These have got great weaving potential too, because they tear off really well into strips and they're quite strong once you would weave them all together. So that's more food for thought. Okay, we'll sandwich those and we will bundle them. So yeah, that gives it a bit more strength, bundling them in multiples like that. Good. The other thing you could do if you wanted to introduce other materials to your binding is that you can use rusty wire and things like that for your binding, and bits of chain for your binding. But like I said earlier, I just want to keep it to the corn water for this experiment to see if it does anything interesting. But yeah, normally I would use other materials for binding, which can leave some really nice lines on the finished product. Okay, and my water is almost coming to the boil. So here are all of our bundles that are going to be steamed on top. So we'll go off camera while this is coming to the boil and we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so we're back. My concoction came to the boil. So I've taken it off the boil while I just put everything in. Then I'll bring it back to the boil and then I'll turn it down to a simmer. So in goes one lot of tiles. The water is hot because I brought it to the boil. In it goes. And I will add some more water to that to bring the water level up. And the water that I'm going to add has got a little bit of corn in it. It's a little bit leftoverish, so it will still have a bit of an effect. Okay, and now I'm going to place my steamer on top of my tiles. And we talked about keeping it pure and only about the corn, but this steamer has got rust all over it because it's what I use for my eco dyeing. But that's okay. It won't have a huge impact because it's not a lot. And we'll sit our other pieces on top in a single layer preferably. And because I put extra water in that, I'm going to have to bring it back to the boil. So I'll just turn that back up again. I'll have to bring it back to the boil. It won't take terribly long. And then when it does come back to the boil, I'll put it down to a simmer. A little escapee there. Put it down to a simmer, and I will have my little air vent half open so that it doesn't overboil. And I'll probably come back in about an hour and take the steaming ones off the top but then leave the tiled bundles to keep brewing for an extra hour. So they'll go for about 2 hours. And then I will turn everything off, and then we won't come back to anything until everything's cooled. So we're going to let everything kind of mingle in and settle into itself and stain everything overnight, and come back and unravel them tomorrow when they're cool and see how we go. So it's starting to come back up to the boil now. So I want to keep an eye on that till it comes up to the boil. And okay, so it's tomorrow and we're ready to take our bundles out of the pan. So these are the wrapped ones. They're still a bit damp. I'm going to let them dry a little before I start undoing them because they'll have a bit more strength if they get a bit drier. So we'll put those to one side. We'll come back to those. And then we've got the tiles. So we'll get those out. The water has cooled. Let all that drain out. Now this liquid that's left over, I'm squeezing it as well as I go. This liquid that is left over is what we are going to now also experiment with making some pigment. So that will be video number 3. Okay, pop this down here. I'll get the other one out. Now I'm also going to let these drain a little bit as well before undoing them. So what I'm going to do is stand them upright. I'm going to stand them upright kind of like that to let them drain a bit more, and then we'll come back and unbundle everything, the fun part. So we'll be back. Okay, so we're back. Things have been draining. I'm a bit too impatient to wait for everything to dry. So we will start unbundling. The papers will be a little bit delicate, but I'm too impatient. So we'll start with some fabric. And I might get some scissors because that will make life a bit easier than trying to undo them. Okay, the big reveal. These are the harushiru, I forget how to say it now. It's a funny word. Subtle, but nice. Organic, which is what we're going for, and the actual colour of the corn water is quite nice too. Okay, I'll put it up there to dry. We'll do another fabric. That fabric there was the cotton jersey. This one will be a calico. Let's see if we can tell whether it's the white calico or the gee whiz. She knows how to do it. Knots. Okay, here we go. What is this going to be? A fern. We've got a little bit of an effect here and here. Not much. That's okay. I like the organic nature of it. And I think that perhaps that was the natural calico, and I think this might be the white calico. These are gum leaves. Which have not done much. I got those gum leaves because in the past I've gotten some really nice purples out of them. But that's okay. All right, let's do some paper. This is just copy paper, and it had the corn stalks in there, corn leaves, which have left a bit of a hue. You can just see a little bit of the shape. It's nice. I don't mind that subtleness. This is, I think, also copy paper with a fern, and it's going to be difficult to open up. Okay, so that's kind of left some quite nice pinky purpley tones, which is interesting. And a bit of a fern impression there and over here. So that's actually quite nice. So this is an Australian tree fern, the fronds off a tree fern. So make a note of that. This is also copy paper. With bay leaves. And they have also gum leaves on the other side. Gum leaves and bay leaves. This was from the gum leaf, so that's usually what I get more of, this pinky purpley colour. But we've got some imprints of the leaves there as well. Very subtle, but nice. Okay. What do we have here? Red edge. No, it's not. It's a bit of leaf. Okay, now, we've got two bundled together. I did that to make it a bit stronger. So this is on a gel print. Here we go. This is wattle. Got a little bit of colour there. This is the bottle brush. Okay, I have not used the bottle brush before. Again, it's done a little bit of this purple. That might have come from the other, what it was bundled with. But there's some interesting little effects in there. Last but not least, for the bundles. This is tissue paper. Hopefully it will open up okay. Find the middle. Okay. Go one at a time. This had a gel print on it also. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's interesting. Nice and subtle. It'll be nice once it's dry and transparent. Got some interesting effects there as well. The steaming has made some of the acrylic paint kind of disperse a little bit, but it's going to look wonderful once it's all dry and transparent for layering on collages, journals. All right, this one had the bottle brush and some gum leaves on the other side. Again, some interesting effects. We'll have to come back when these have dried and have another look. And this one, gum leaves. And this one, gum leaves on one side, bottle brush on the other. So we've got some cool little effects in there. And some nice effects there. This was just plain tissue paper, this one. No gel printing. Okay, so now we will go on to the tile bundles. Make some space. These will also be wet, but won't be quite as delicate because they're not wrapped up. Okay, all right. Let's see how we go here. So this is bottle brush on some plain calico. And we do have an impression there. And I think once it dries, that will stand out a bit more. We've got a little bit of green in there too, which is cool. And this one has got, again, the bottle brush on one side, and on the other side we have got the Harusha. Try and scrape these off. They'll brush off easily once they've dried. Okay, and we've got some green tones in there as well, and some faint leaf imprints, but hopefully they'll stand out a bit more as they dry. They haven't done much. I've had success with those in the past, which is why I picked them. That's okay. What have we got on the other side? These were the lemon leaves, and they've left a good impression. Really nice, those lemon leaves. And this is the lemon leaves on paper. They've also left a good impression on the paper. And on the other side, we had the tree ferns, and they've left a nice impression too. So, really nice, subtle, organic, but very nice. So here we've got the tree fern imprints again, and this is wattle, which has also left a nice impression on the other side. And here we have, yes, the watercolour paper, which I'd painted some watercolour on the other side, but on this side, for starters, we've got a bit of an impression there of the wattle leaves. These are gum leaves, so on this side we have gum leaves, and yes, you can see some impressions of the gum leaves here. Bit of a red pinky blush there, which I normally get much more of that. But this was an experiment, and I did it differently than I normally do, because I wanted to check out the corn, and I didn't use any rust or any of those sorts of things. I just used the alum as a mordant. So it's good in terms of experimenting. Okay, so here is the gum leaves again, and you can see that there's the imprint. That'll dry up nicely. These are bay leaves, and these are little bay leaf flower buds. And there was a flower bud here that I just flicked off before, and look how pink that is. And so I think that there's potential for the bay leaf flower buds. And there's some leaf imprints on there as well. Okay, so bay leaves. This was also on some paper that I painted, so there's some nice, hang on, what have we got here? 2 bits of paper, I think. I do. Nothing in between. Oh well, that's okay. So it's got some nice pinks on it. So again, I think that might have come from the flower buds of the bay tree. And on the other side here we had some bottle brush, and That's left a really nice impression. That's left a nice impression too. So the bottle brush works well. What we've got under here is some more tree ferns. And we've got some pink in there and a bit of tree fern impression. Now we've got some tissue paper. Best way to grab it. It was tissue paper that had gel print on it. These are gum leaves. And they have left an impression. It's difficult to see, but there is an impression of some gum leaves on there, which will show up much more easily. And I've got some tree fern in there too, which is run through from the previous print, which is nice. That will dry up really nicely. When we come back and look at them when they're dry, all of this will stand out a bit more. Gum leaves. Okay, and gum leaves underneath as well. Okay, there is some leaf impressions there, which will stand out more once they're dry. Okay, bundle 2. You can see the kind of greeny stain there, which looks quite nice colour. All right, next one. Okay, so we will be back when everything has dried to do a final look through. Till then. Our papers are all dry and we have some interesting results. Before we look at those, I just wanted to show you, I spoke briefly earlier about a particular eucalyptus leaf that I usually get more purpley pinks from. And this is an example of what I meant when it is steamed in the dirty pot. So the dirty pot being rust, vinegar, alum, onion skins, whatever has been thrown in. And I save and recycle mine, so it's a real hot hocus pocus mess when I do use it. So here we can see the difference between this and just using the corn water and alum. So not as much contrast, much more soft, much more subtle, which is fine. There is a place for those neutral tones in journaling and collage and any sorts of projects that you're doing. As a dye, eco dyeing, the colours from the corn water are really nice. These are the lemon leaves, and we can see a faint imprint, and it just takes away that night whiteness of the tissue paper, making it a bit more organic and neutral. So good as a eco dyeing. When it comes to eco printing, not as strong of an imprint because we've only got the alum in there and it's not a dirty pot, it's just the corn leaves. But again, we've got some organic, soft sorts of imprints there. These are both off the bottle brush, a bottle brush tree. This one's got some faint little fern marks. This is all watercolour paper, these three. We did get a bit of colour from the bay leaf buds and a bit of an imprint here. Again, that's all the watercolour paper. So there is a place, I think, for this in setting up some really nice neutral tones. This is from a fern. This was on a gel printed one. It has completely softened off that gel print, and we can see a secondary kind of ghost print from the leaves coming through there. And again, it's just taken away that whiteness of the tissue paper. Sorry, these aren't tissue paper. This is cartridge printer paper. Again, this was a gel print. We've got the lemon leaves on the other side and some fern here. These didn't get much of an imprint, but again, you've got that soft, more organic colour, just taking away the whiteness. They're nice. This is the tissue paper. And it's really taken away that whiteness. Lemons, I showed you that one before. And then we've just got some really subtle marks. There's a really nice lot of yellow in here, which is almost like a burnt yellow. It's really, really nice. I can really see it having a place. This was one that had gel printing on it, as were these. So they are good. I don't mind them for the experiment that we had, and they will have a place. This was brown paper, packing paper. That's come up nicely. So that's got some potential. Brown packing paper, a gel print on front. This was an old yellow manila envelope with a gel print. That's okay. The fabrics. Not a lot of imprint. Got some faint lines here. I think that this must have been the wattle, because the wattle have got long leaves like that. So I think that was the wattle. Just some coloration there, which is nice. Mostly just eco dyeing as opposed to eco printing on the fabrics, which I'll probably eco dye over these. Eco print over these. This one, cotton jersey, has got a bit of the lemon leaf imprint. So that's nice and subtle. Cartridge paper. Got some imprints there from the cartridge paper. So that's turned out quite nice. And this is also cartridge paper. So this was white before, very stark looking. So now it's much more organic and earthy looking. I think that I have gone through everything. Now, what I'm going to do with some of these is I'm going to go through all of these papers and sort them into some little piles, and I'm going to make a book with some of these as the pages, and the handmade paper that we made in the first video I'm going to use as covers. So we'll be back to have a look at that, and then this video will be finished. And we're back with the book that we made from the corn paper and the eco-dyed pages. And I love these little peepholes. I used those pieces on purpose. And I used a tab binding method. I created 4 signatures inside and then bound them together with a tab method using the corn paper as well. That enables it to open flat for working in, which is great. And you can kind of see the benefits of using the eco-dyed paper from the same batch. It's very cohesive and unified. Even the gel prints, the dye toned down the brightness of them so that they're more in tune with the overall look and appearance and style and feel of the little book. So I'm going to be actually using this, journaling in it. I can't decide what to do yet, if I'm going to keep it nature inspired. I think that might be what I have to do. But it did turn out great. This took me about half an hour to make. Sorry, I did not video it. However, I can do one in the future if anybody's interested. So that's the end of part 2 of this trio. Next we'll be using the remaining corn water to create some pigment and probably some inks too, because I think I'll have a fair bit, so I'll have enough to do both. So stay tuned for part 3, and remember to like, share, subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. See you soon.